Hello, I'm Trudy, One Grounded Angel. This is the weekly angel card reading for the week beginning September the 4th through to the 10th, 2017. Thank you so much for watching and for your feedback and support. So I'll start shuffling the cards. I do one different deck for each day of the week. I know lots of other angel card readers have their own method, but for me, I just like to have the variety of using a different deck. And also because I loved seeing the patterns emerge over the week, and when they're the same message repeated in different decks, that's how you know it's particularly significant. So let's start with Monday the 4th and see what messages the angels have to tell us. This one's popped out, learning experience. So I talked last week about this idea of how we're all students of life, and Dr. Brian Weiss, who's a past life regression expert, talks about this as being an earth school, and I love that because it's such a great image for how we're here to learn. We're very hard on ourselves when we fail or when things don't work out for us, but actually that's the most powerful time, even though it feels crappy, because that's when we learn the lesson, and that's really important. And sometimes when we're stuck in patterns that are repeating, for example, we're attracting the same type of man who's wrong for us, that's because the universe is repeating it, so we learn the lesson. And when we don't learn, we get stuck in that pattern. So it's only when we learn the lesson that it goes away. Now I don't know who said this, but someone said that nothing goes away until it has taught us what we need to know. So I want to say Louise Hay, but I mean I'm probably just paraphrasing because her teachings are so prolific. But it's certainly an important lesson. So try to look upon what you've been through as a learning experience. Sometimes that can help us feel a little bit better about it and to forgive ourselves, as it were. Not that we've done anything wrong, but try to make peace with what's happened. If we can reframe it and redefine it as it's something that we needed to go through. It still hurts and it's still crappy, but if you can understand that it's for your betterment, that can help. So very similar to the card we had on Friday. So going on with Tuesday now. And that message, sorry, just going back to this, they are saying that's also for people who feel like they're kind of they're showing me like a bog or a marsh where you're lifting your feet and it's muddy and you're kind of not really getting traction and you're not getting ahead. You feel like you're kind of not moving ahead as fast as you would like. That message is significant to you because it's letting you know that there's something, you're here because there's something you need to learn. May not be something obvious to you right at this minute, but just try and be patient with the process because there is a reason. Maybe there's something happening that you haven't realised yet, but you will, and something that's going to become apparent to you that you need to learn, which you wouldn't learn if you were racing ahead at the speed of knots. Things that come to us easily and quickly are often not sustainable. I'm generalising here, but often we talk about, things fell into place. I just found the house and moved in. It was meant to be. And that can happen, but often it takes time for us to find the things that are meant for us because we need to, our learning needs to develop to learn what we need to know. Things need to fall into place behind the scenes that we can't see. And sometimes other people need to have realizations to bring us what we need, or all sorts of things can happen. So sometimes the things that are hardest fought for, that take longest to fall into place, are the ones that are most deserve is a loaded word, isn't it? I shouldn't say that because that sounds like it's something you've got to earn. They are the things that are most needed, that last the longest, that they're most significant for our development. So we're looking at Tuesday now, the 5th. Oh, do you know what? The 5th is a great day because the planet Mercury goes direct. I forgot to mention this at the top of the recording. So when we talk about a planet going direct, it means the end of a retrograde. So I've written about Mercury retrograde a lot on my blog. I don't want to bang on about it anymore, but needless to say, this is a very good thing. But please be aware, when a planet goes direct, it might officially be the end of the retrograde, but we have a shadow period of about 2 weeks, roughly. So we can still feel the effects of it. So don't rush out and go thinking that suddenly your public transport's going to be all okay and there's no need to worry about technology fails anymore. So even though it's officially direct, we can still have some repercussions. But at a lesser, I guess, of a lesser magnitude, I would say. Tuesday, Archangel Gabriel, one of my very favourites. Not that I should have favourites, but one that I use a lot as I'm a writer. Gabriel's associated with communication. She helps people who are messengers, so that's why people in the media, she's good to help with them. She's also good for people trying to conceive, because as you know, if you have heard the nativity story, you know, she was involved as a messenger in that scenario. So now her message here is about communication and more about creativity, which she's also associated with. So it's about encouraging us to share our message with the world. So, which is appropriate because the planet Mercury is also about messages. It's aligned with Hermes, the, gosh, my mythology is so bad. You know, Hermes or Mercury, same thing. It's that winged, in the different Roman or Greek disciplines, that messenger. So, you know, you have, the card says you have an important life purpose involving communication in the arts. Now, not everybody watching this or reading this on social media needs to be a writer or needs to be an artist or needs to share their message in some way like that. However, every single person needs to be expressing their creativity. And the reason you need to do that is because it helps you tune into your intuition. So look, I'm not a good artist, and I know it's not a good idea to put a value on my work because the product doesn't matter, it's about the process. But I spend time colouring and sketching because it helps me. It helps me be present in what I'm doing, it helps me express myself, and it helps the creativity that I bring to other aspects of my life, such as my writing, my journalism work, the card messages I share with you guys, all that sort of thing. Creativity is not something that is reserved for those people who identify as artists. It is for everybody, and it's a really important energy for you to express. When our creativity is not being used, that doesn't mean we don't have it. It just means it's lying dormant and it's waiting for you to tap into it, because it will help you in so many ways. It will help you find peace. It will help you hear your intuition more clearly. It will help you feel less stress. It has all sorts of physical health benefits. But going back to the message I sort of touched on earlier, some of you really do need to be sharing your message in some way. It might be social media, which I guess in this time is the most obvious way. Perhaps it's sharing your writing, perhaps it's starting a blog, perhaps it's doing public speaking, perhaps it's doing illustrations that you share in some way. You know, perhaps you have some sort of contribution in your workplace where you share messages with people. I don't know. You will know. It's your intuition that will tell you what you need to be doing here. But if that doesn't speak to you in particular, it might just be a desire for you to, not a desire, but a call for you to tap into that desire to be creative. So if you've read Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic, or heard her speak or seen her post about it, she talks about creativity being magic, and it is. It's like an alchemy. You turn thoughts or ideas in here into something material on a page or on a canvas or in the kitchen creating cakes or whatever it is. Creativity is so much more than those artiste kind of products that we think of. It's the way you raise your children is creative. So perhaps it could be more about inventing new games to play with them. Trust your intuition. So we're looking at Wednesday now, the 6th of September, prosperity. We also had a message about money last week. It was on Saturday. So prosperity is a word that in ancient times it referred to like a good harvest. So basically, if you tap into that meaning, it's really saying about being provided for. The provision of goods that will help you survive and thrive. And so in these modern times, we don't necessarily grow crops, although if you do, that's awesome. We go to grocery stores and buy our provisions, but we do that when we've got money coming to us. And that is a difficult thing for some of us because we don't necessarily know where the money is coming through. Now, I'm self-employed, so this is a constant I would say struggle, but it's actually not something I struggle with and the reason I do that is because I've been self-employed for 7 years and I've had to make peace with the fact that I never know how much money is going to appear in my bank account or when. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I have to harass people to get paid for my work. But I have to make peace with that because if I see it as a struggle, that's going to send out an energy that this is difficult and it's just going to create more problems. Instead, I choose to believe that people will always pay me fairly and that I'll always be given enough of what I need. So even when things are slow between payments, things come to me in other ways that can help me. I gave the example last week of me getting a free holiday when I was asking for more money. So abundance is about knowing you've got enough to prosper. And that's not about being wealthy, it's about having enough of what you need, although you can certainly work with the law of attraction to bring more money into your life. So now the key word here is about receiving. Sometimes we have blocks to receiving money, and this could be because of things in our past, blocks to believing that we deserve to have enough. Sometimes we are convinced that we're destined to be poor. Sometimes we have some sort of, your parents probably said to you, money doesn't grow on trees. And of course it doesn't grow on trees. However, it does come from some magical path that we can't see. That's the universe. So, or God, if you want to think of it as that way. But you need to know that you have an interaction in that, and that is your thoughts. So your thoughts attract your experiences and largely contribute. It's a co-creation. So if you have these blocks around, I'm never going to get ahead, I'm never going to have enough, I'm always going to be behind, all those sorts of things which can come from your childhood, you need to start really challenging those and to turn those around and start thinking, I am divinely provided for. I have everything I need. The universe is providing for me. I open my arms to the flow of abundance. That's one I used a very long time ago regularly, and that's helped a lot. So, I was talking about crops earlier. You can almost see this cornucopia type imagery here and the money flowing out. So please know you always have enough. And if you want to expand that, and who doesn't, challenge your thoughts around that, and particularly anything around money is evil or anything like that. That's not the case. It's only what you do with it that's evil. And I'm sure that no one watching that would fit into this category. So make sure you're open to receiving the money. You haven't got any blocks around that. So, and sometimes those blocks are just fear. Thursday. If you get nervous, focus on service. Now, this is something that most light workers will be like, oh, this again, because it's something that you learn when you're learning how to use cards or tarot if you're American. Because when you are reading cards or doing any sort of light working spiritual work with people, what can stop you or inhibit the flow of intuition is your fear. So, and the way that you're taught to get around that when you're learning this process is to focus on the client and how you can serve them. So, oh, excuse me, I just had something caught in my throat. I wonder if that's, every time these disturbances come up, like some sort of outside noise randomly, like the random renovations last week, I always think, is there a reason does this need to be drawn to someone's attention? Because, it's the same thing when I'm shuffling and a card gets stuck or I'm going through them and one's the wrong way up. That's significant. So perhaps there's someone here who really needs to hear this. So, it's not just talking about spiritual work here. It's talking about anything you do, anything you're trying to bring into the world. If you are nervous, focus on how it can help people. So, if you're starting a business and you're scared it's going to fail, which is normal, don't focus on that fear of failure. Focus on the good that can come from you, what you can bring to other people through that, something that they need, something that can help them in some way. If you are, what are some other ways this might be relevant? I think sometimes they keep drawing my attention to sort of life purpose stuff. So, often we talk about life purpose and career in the same sort of breath, but often our life purpose is not related to our work. Sometimes a job is just the job. You just go there to get the money, and your life purpose is about what you do outside of that, the volunteer work you do, the app that you're developing that's going to help people learn to meditate or whatever it is. So, Yeah, so if I separate the career stuff from out of that and talk about your life purpose, what are you bringing to the world? What are you trying to achieve? What is making your soul happy? And focus on how that's going to inspire people and uplift them, because often the way that we inspire people is not by, inspirational quotes or, or telling them what to do and preaching to them. It's actually by just going out there and living a good life and being kind to people. People are inspired by your example, not by your opinion. That's a really important thing to remember in this time where we've got opinions flying all over the place on social media, and with good intentions, I'm sure, but often you don't change someone's mind by a rational argument or a reasonable kind of point of view. It's often, and this is particularly true in political times, you change their minds by living that example. And, maybe you don't need to change anyone's mind at all, of course, but it's very judgmental to say someone's wrong and you're right. But if you can just bring to the world what you want to embody, what you want to see in the world, as the saying goes, that's going to go a long way towards making the world a better place, and that will have an impact on others. It's, like that ripple effect. So if you are worried about something, or look at what you can do to counteract it and focus on that instead. There's Friday, sorry. Yeah, we're up to Friday. Harmony. Oh, this is nice. This is one of the original card decks I had, actually, and it's very old, very dated, and some of the concepts in it are kind of simplified versions of messages that in more modern decks are more expanded on. But if we think about the word harmony, it's about being in tune, in a musical sense. When you've got a harmony going on, there's all these people with different voices coming together and creating something beautiful. They're not beautiful because they're saying the same thing echoed and amplified. It's because they're all doing their own thing in different ways. So the way to get a harmonious relationship is about everybody in the relationship having the space to be who they need to be who they are, to develop where they need to develop and grow and learn. But those will be in different ways to the other people. So, and that's okay. So if we try to, I think it is, I'm just tuning into this. So there's sort of an element here about needing to let other people do what they need to do, and try to see the beauty in how our differences can make us bring out the colours, create something colourful. I'm not explaining this very well. It's a tenuous one because it's a very simplified concept, and it's going to mean so many different things to different people. But instead of concentrating on the friction or the conflict in a relationship or in a workplace, concentrate on how those can sort of how we can achieve harmony by complementing each other. There you go. So try to let go of your desire to have everybody think the same way as you, or to have everybody be living the same way as you, which is a trap, because that's not what we're supposed to do. We're not supposed to be the same. We've all got different soul lessons, and we learn things in different ways and at different speeds. So try to look at where you can achieve harmony there, and where you can achieve harmony in your own life as well, if we're not talking about other people. So the elements of your life that are out of balance. Now, I've talked about this a lot. Work-life balance is a total myth. It's not possible to have work-life balance, but we can always do a better job where we're wildly out of balance. So try to create some more harmony in your life. And the saying here, this creativity message is a really good way to do that. If you're working too hard, getting on board with a creative project is a really good way to bring you back into a sort of balance, or at least taking you out of that, where you're teetering. So the harmony comes from having these different things going on, and not to achieve something homogenized, but to achieve something that's like where things are moving together. It's so tenuous, isn't it? They just keep coming back to this creative idea and about how Particularly people who are stressed, creativity, as I mentioned, is a really great way to get some more balance in your life, and to not get rid of, because stress is in some ways necessary and in some ways inevitable, but to try and get make peace with that. Yeah, I'll leave it at that, because it's going to be one of those ones that you need to make your own kind of mind up with. I mean, as are all these messages, to be fair, but that's one that's just going to be... I'm also getting some additional information here about anger. So I've talked a lot about how anger is a secondary emotion. It's masking things. We're angry because sometimes we're angry because things aren't going our way. People aren't behaving as we expect them to. And often I talk about how the way to get to the bottom of that is to look at what's underneath it. I'm scared of this happening, or not. I'm scared of being out of control, or whatever it is. And but here they're saying to try and get some peace and some harmony in your life, to look for ways to bring in more peace. It's interesting, I'm just looking back and I'm noticing, which I didn't before, on the Monday card there is a dove here, which, as we all know, is a symbol of peace. So that is standing out to me already as a theme for the week. So look for ways that you can bring some peace into your life among the chaos and among the upheaval. How can you bring in a sense of calm to deal with that, not to fix it. It's not about fixing things. It's about being at peace with how they are, and in some ways changing your response rather than changing the situation. Saturday. Oh, what have I got here? Relationship harmony. You know what I was saying before about how I love seeing different themes emerge across different cards? I mean, the word is repeated. The colours are even very similar. It couldn't be more obvious. Here I was struggling with this message so much to articulate it, and here it is again. And that doesn't mean that if the message that you're taking from this is not about relationships, it doesn't mean that you need to make it about relationships. You take what you need from that. But for Saturday, this relationship harmony is really important. So, the message in here speaks about arguments and conflicts. They are inevitable. We're always going to have clashes. We're always going to disagree, and it's just kind of the human condition. And what you need to make sure that happens there is to, firstly, to not... I'm going to try and do a better job of explaining this. You need to... So what I struggle with sometimes in explaining this message is I always talk about how, and messages about forgiveness as well, about how it's about recognizing where the other person is coming from. Everybody is doing the best they can at any given point with the information and knowledge that they have. However, that doesn't mean it's okay for them to treat you in a certain way. So the first part about, achieving harmony is to acknowledge how you feel, and that not to beat yourself up for that. How you feel is justified. You're entitled to your feelings at any point. And the second thing is to recognize where the other person's coming from, and then you've got to try and figure out how to build a bridge with that. If the relationship is beyond repair, then you move away from it. And I know that's not easy if it's in a family relationship. But often the reason we clash is because there's something in there that you need to learn. So it might be about the way you react when you're tested. It might be that there's something about their behavior that reminds you of something you do. And to use Louise Hay's teachings again, because they underpin just so much of what what we are learning in a metaphysical sense, because she's that her work is so prolific. And obviously with her passing, she's even more in my mind right now. She talks about how when somebody annoys you or irritates you, it's often because they do something that you do too. They remind you of something in yourself, and it might be something that you used to do. For example, I've got a friend who I used to be really close with, and she goes out with a guy who's incredibly negative and judgmental and critical. And the reason he annoys me is because he I only worked this out when I started asking myself some questions. He reminds me that's how I used to be. And I'm not saying that I'm not judgmental now. I think a lot of people are judgmental. I certainly am not as bad as I used to be, and I am much better at pulling myself up on it when I do this now. But his permanent disposition is to criticise and pull people apart for any mistakes they make. And mistakes is a word I would use in inverted commas there, because what are mistakes anyway? Nobody is beyond reproach, and you know, sometimes what we see as mistakes are actually just things that someone does that don't meet our approval. So maybe our standards are the problem. So as per usual, I've gone off on a tangent here, but the card is asking you to look at where you have frictions and conflicts with people. Not saying you need to, wallpaper over a mouldy wall here and pretend everything's fine, but you do need to find a way to make peace with the situation, to look into that wound and see what you can do to make peace with it within yourself. And that doesn't mean accepting bad behaviour, and it doesn't mean accepting that, making yourself the one who is at fault. And sometimes when we try to apportion blame as well, that's also a trap. It's not that helpful. You're not supposed to get along with every single person, but often the people that we clash with, it's because they might be doing something that is something that we need to address within ourselves or be aware of, or maybe because that relationship is mirroring another relationship that's not healthy, and it's reminding us the reason this pushes your buttons is because you're allowing some bad behaviour. So really, there's so many things I could say about this card, but really it's up to you to figure out what the relationship is and what it is that you need to do to address that situation. And human relationships are very complicated, so there's no kind of magic formula for resolving, or if resolution's not possible, for finding a way forward for you. That's really what it's about. Ooh. Oh my goodness, here we go again on Sunday with this deck that I get really awkward with. It's just embarrassing, isn't it? Still, if you're prepared to post a video on YouTube of yourself rambling, then maybe embarrassment's not really an issue for you. Oh, okay. They told me to stop, and so I took the one that was standing out. 4 of Raphael. Raphael is the archangel associated with healing, health, travel, and romance. I think there are probably other things too, but those are the central ones. So when I tap into this card, you've got a little girl that symbolises innocence here. And I think there's a message here about compassion. And I'm not sure if that's just because it's following on from our theme, but try to recognise the innocence within yourself as well. Because sometimes oftentimes actually, we beat ourselves up a lot, and we're very unfair to ourselves. But also that innocence message extends to other people that we have less than satisfactory relationships with. Try to remember, as I just said, everybody is doing the best they can here. So try to understand where they're coming from, or what they might have been through that's contributed to their fear-based response, or whatever it is. It's really about owning your emotions and being okay with them, but also about trying to do what I call playing psychic detective on what's really going on here underneath. So, but then I'm a Scorpio. I love delving into emotions, even when they hurt. It's a bit like when you've got an ulcer in your mouth or a loose tooth. You can just keep your tongue on it all the time, even though it hurts. But there is some good to it. Unlike that situation, there is some good in that comes from delving into our emotions, because we can try and find what's going on underneath, and that's how we learn lessons. This particular deck has multiple meaning, as many of the cards do, but often with the messages on here, they give me several different ones, and there's only one that I find helpful, so that's the one I'm speaking to, but I will read the others in case they're meaningful to you. Seek out other possibilities, look for the magic in life. I'm not getting any energetic charge from those, but perhaps they're meaningful to you. For me, it's the symbolism here that's speaking the loudest about happiness and about recognizing the joy of just being a human who's trying to figure out what the heck they're doing, and that's okay. So it's okay to not know what you're doing and to still not be sure where you're going. It's okay to make mistakes, and just be kind to yourself, and treat yourself the way you would a child if they were coming to you with this problem. Say, oh, look, I've done this thing, or I haven't done this yet, or whatever. Just try and nurture yourself. So, interesting week. So, harmony is a big theme here. Gosh, sorry, this is 30 minutes long. So we've got about learning and growth. That was strong last week. It's strong again. Creativity is also a big theme here. And yeah, that message about harmony and about, I think about being kind to yourself is coming through as well, and try to seeing people as innocent. It doesn't mean they don't need to take responsibility for their actions, but it does mean that everybody's trying to figure out what they're doing too, and they're going to make mistakes. So try to be patient with that, and understand, see people with compassion. That's it for the week. I'll put these on my social media. At Instagram, I'm at One Grounded Angel. My Facebook page is One Grounded Angel. And if you'd like to book a personal reading or contact me, you can do so through my blog, www.onegroundedangel.com. There is a bookings or a contact tab there. Some people have recently told me that's not working. I don't know what's going on. I'm really crap with technology. I'm going to try and fix it. If that doesn't work for you, please just email me, onegroundedangel@gmail.com. I'm hoping it's just a Mercury retrograde situation and will just fix itself. Have a fantastic week. Thank you for your support of my page and my work, and thank you for watching. And I hope you have a terrific week and continue to be the best that you can be, and be kind to yourselves when you're not.